It's 5,000 kilometers in length and only about 230 kilometers wide on average. So it's incredibly long and skinny. A bit like me, but longer. And basically, the wine regions, wine is produced throughout 1,200 kilometers of that 5,000 kilometers. So the data center of the country essentially is Santiago, the capital. Which is pretty much in the middle of the wine producing region also, we're about 2 hours drive south of that, about 200 kilometers south. The Colchagua Valley runs from the Andes, which make up the sort of, if you like, the eastern border of the country, out towards the coast, which is the western border, is obviously the Pacific Ocean. So it's the Colchagua Valley. Where we are, we're a little bit different in terms of the wine growing regions in Chile. It is a warmer valley. It's sort of known as one of the two most important red wine producing valleys. Colchagua, the other one being Maipo, which is where we're known for its Cabernet Sauvignon. But where we are basically in Chile, you have the Andes Mountains. You also have a coastal mountain range. We're in between those two mountain ranges, but where we are, the coastal mountains are relatively low. So that means that we get more influence from the ocean. And where we are in Chile, there's an ocean current. I don't know how good you guys are with the southern hemisphere geography. Probably pretty good, I imagine. But there's a current of cold water that comes up from the Antarctic called the Humboldt Current. Now I'm going to ask you questions later on, so please, I want to see if you're writing this information down. It's incredibly cold water. Unfortunately, it means that Chileans all go to the beach, but we don't swim because it's too bloody cold. But the advantage for winemaking is it means that the Colchagua Valley gets very hot during the day, but when the temperature gets up to about 29, 30 degrees during the hottest month, during January, all this wind starts to rush in off the ocean. And that wind is really, really cold because it's cooled by that Humboldt current. And so that caps temperatures at about 29, 30 degrees. We really don't get any hotter than that. And that, to my mind, makes conditions ideal for red wine production because we get hot, but we don't get so hot that the vines stress out and the grapes start to produce cooked flavors, the grapes start to raisin. We don't get to that extreme like they do, say, in the Barossa Valley in Australia or the Napa Valley in California. We're cooler than that, okay? And at night, because we also have a lot of snow on the Andes Mountains during winter, and the Andes are only about 50 kilometers away from the winery, at night the wind changes direction and it rushes down off the mountains, and so the temperature drops dramatically. Within 2 hours of nightfall, we've dropped down to about 15, 16 degrees. At 1 o'clock in the morning, we've dropped down to about 12 degrees usually, even during January, the hottest month. So we get an incredibly fantastic sort of change between daytime heat and nighttime cold. That's very good for winemaking. So it looks like the food's gradually creeping across the room. I'll talk quickly about the wines and then I'll pass the mic over to Pilar, who's going to talk a little bit about this food. We're drinking two wines tonight, the Sauvignon Blanc. I mentioned that 20% of the grapes don't come from our own vineyards. The Sauvignon Blanc actually isn't from our own vineyard. Which brings me to, it sounds a bit funny after all the big speech about us being a small winery sourcing our own fruit off our own vineyards. But 20% does come from growers. The Sauvignon Blanc is from the Casamaica Valley, which is much closer to the coast, it's further north. Don't worry too much about the details, it's just a cooler area. So this is very much a cool climate, Sauvignon Blanc, very mineral. A lot of people taste it and go, hey Grant, we can tell you're a New Zealand winemaker, it tastes like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I don't want it to taste like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I hate New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, that's why I left New Zealand. I'm sick of drinking wine that tastes like cut grass and asparagus, that's not what I like, it doesn't work with food. This is, I think it's a nice mineral style, good freshness, but the fruit is green without getting herbaceous or vegetal. So feel free to taste the wines, please, while I'm talking. Some guys obviously arrive very hungry, they're eating already. That's okay as well. We're very relaxed with these things. So that's going to go to the French dish, which we'll talk about in just 1 minute. The next glass is a Viognier. The Viognier is, once again, this is from our own vineyard, sorry. From San Carlos, our oldest vineyard. These are 10-year-old vines, though. It's Viognier. It's a grape originally from the Rhone Valley in France. A lot of people say it's a white mutation of Syrah. It ripens about 2 months after the Sauvignon Blanc. So it ripens very, very late, very much like a red. Very different. You won't ever confuse these two in a blind tasting. The Viognier is opulent, exotic fruit. I mean, it's passion fruit, guava, you get white pepper on the nose. And it's got bigger alcohol than the Sauvignon Blanc, but it also very acidic. So I think the mouth, it's got nice freshness, even though it's much more voluptuous. I mean, this is sort of the Pamela Anderson of wines, if you like. It's sort of attention grabbing. You love to see everyone got a beach or a bikini. It's not necessarily the most versatile food wine, but if you think carefully about food and wine pairing, as we have here, I think you'll see that it works very well with food. Sauvignon, obviously Sauvignon is an easy wine, it's very drinkable, it tends to work quite well with sort of everything. So I'll pass over to Pilar. Hopefully I'll briefly introduce Pilar before. Pilar is, to my mind, the best chef in Chile at the moment. I have to say that because she knows where I live and she'll come around my house and kill me if I don't say that. No, but Pilar is one of the very few Chilean chefs who trained in the Cordon School of Cooking in Paris. Certainly the only female cook. Originally from the Colchagua Valley, from the coast in the Colchagua. So Pilar is going to talk a bit more about philosophy, but very much I like to make wine which tastes like where it comes from. Pilar likes to cook food that comes from Colchagua as well. So even though a lot of these ingredients are from Denmark, very much we're trying to reproduce her style of cooking in Chile, and I think she's done a fantastic job. I'll pass it over to Pilar. Thank you.
I didn't expect that, seriously, that many people, so I really appreciate it. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the restaurant too. Chef River has been, all the team has been extremely helpful to put together these incredible events. I think we need a lot of events. I have that. And so, Chef, please, Chef? Chef, please? Don't say no. Chef and his teams has been fantastic. Chef River's run this restaurant, and I think a big applause for him. Without a chef, so, and a female chef. My work in Chile is mainly with the wine. I cook for the wine. This is what I do all the time. I work in the wine industry, and very close with Viu Manent. I'm the chef assistant with the winery. And we do this with brand and the winery all the time. And what we're going to do today is, the work that we do with brand is to sort of discover the wine, the flavors and the textures that wine brings. So what you will see is not that many flavors of one grape, and all the flavors that we choose is to enhance the flavors and the characteristics of the one that we have. Okay? So this is the main reason of doing wine there at the end of the day, is to have pleasure and not to have any flavors or to cover other flavors, and to have a perfect balance. And hopefully, I think I'm happy with the results and with the help of my friends here. I think I hope you enjoy. And thank you so much for coming. I appreciate that.
Cool. I'm just going to say, please eat a lot of talking and drink wine. Eat, drink, and be merry. That's very much our philosophy of Viu Manent. I'm just going to say really briefly, I mean, working with Pilar for me is a real pleasure because she's one of the very few chefs I've worked with who really respects the flavors of the wine. Obviously, winemaker dinners or wine food pairing, it's both things have to work together. A lot of chefs around the world, whenever I do these winemaker dinners, I usually do it with a local chef. And usually the local chef kind of goes, yeah, there's wine involved, but it's all about the food. I'm a cook, I'm interested in food, and that's what it's all about. I'd do the same if I was a chef, I'm sure, but fortunately, if you can find a chef very talented like Pilar who does know the wine as well, who understands where they're from, and cooks to respect the flavors of the wines, I think both things end up tasting so much more spectacular. So I think that's a wonderful thing about working with Pilar. And we worked very hard on this menu in Chile. We got together several times and tasted and changed and tweaked and made future sort of changes. We had to do the same thing when we arrived here because of course all the ingredients weren't the same. You can't unfortunately fly to Denmark with your suitcase full of Chilean fish. The customs agents aren't really very happy with that. So we had to use local fish and so forth, but we also brought some of the ingredients with us, the more critical things. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to stop talking now. Please eat and enjoy. I'll get to talk with every course as with Pilar. I'll talk about the wine, she'll talk about the food. And if you have any questions, for me at least, Pilar's going to be pretty busy, but if you have any questions for me, please just stick your hand up and I'll come by. Cheers. Enjoy. Bon appetit.